Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Pandemic. Hashtag War Room Pandemic is where you get into the conversation. We're kind of getting blown up in China right now, right? But I think here's the reason. Let me just go back and reset this, is that they understand and they have been freaked out totally by the deplorables. Back after I left the White House in September of 2017, I gave a speech or a talk in Hong Kong at an investment conference, and the Chinese Communist Party, I kind of threw down that we're at economic war and it's heading in this direction, and they reached out to me. I went to Beijing and met with Wang Xishan for 3 hours, and his entire time, I've said this, entire time, he only asked about populism and nationalism in the United States. And he had a detailed understanding of the United States of America. I mean, very detailed. And what they're concerned about is this audience. They're concerned about not the hedge fund people that listen to us, not the news producers that listen to us. What they're concerned about is the deplorables. They're concerned about the working class in the United States of America, in the middle class. They understand that if they become woke to what the real story is with the CCP and how they're embedded with our elites and how all the manufacturing jobs went there. Now everybody, you have Rosemary Gibson, this very quiet, very, very sweet, very nice woman who comes in and drops a bombshell book that tells you that all your drugs, all your pharmaceuticals, all your antibiotics, all your vitamin C, all your PPE is made in China and has been shipped over there for years. It's like, it's a huge reveal. And you got Cuomo saying, I didn't know that. And people saying, well, why didn't you know it? It's been out there in the public. Remember, there are no conspiracies. The conspiracy theory guys are all nutcases, okay, with tinfoil hats on. It's in your grill. Okay, it's in your grill. That's why she goes to Davos 3 days before Trump. That also wasn't, you think that was a random thing to happen? There are no coincidences. That's why that lab's in Wuhan, there are no coincidences. There's no conspiracies, but there are no coincidences. She shows up 3 days before. It was to Bigfoot Donald Trump's inaugural address and tell you the system that's working, guys, is our system, the network effect. They don't want nations. What they want is tributary states. That's what the elites in this country is, a tributary state. They've done this for 4,000 years. This is how the Chinese elite, the CCP, is a group of gangsters, and they run it just like the imperial. The Chinese people have never been freed for one small period of time. For one small period of time, and Sun Yat-sen and they had the warlords. It was not great, but it was better, and they were fighting and everything like that. But hey, guess what? The United States, the deplorables back then bought their bonds. You're going to hear Jonna Bianca is going to come in and talk to you about these bonds that American guys bought back in the 20s. Why? When we had missionaries over there, I remember as a kid, you've given nickels and dimes for the orphans in China, right? We've always had a very strong affinity to the Chinese people, right? This is what happened back in the 20s. When they were free, we financed it. The deplorables. These are bonds sold today, owned by working class and middle class people in the United States, which the United States, government has never really been in the back of getting their money. Margaret Thatcher, and hey, to me, the biggest mistake Thatcher ever made was Hong Kong. Chris Patton and some guys I really respect fought that, but hey, she said, we don't hold the new territories. We don't hold where you get water. It's just a barren rock. We got to do it. But, when it was under British rule with British common law, the Chinese people absolutely flourished. Look at today. You've had the top the top 15 or 20 of the freedom fighters have all in jail. Jimmy Lyon, all the people, the guy that wrote the Constitution, they're all been rounded up. Also, people associated with this freedom movement of getting defectors out. Last night, I heard that they rounded up 50 of them in Hong Kong, right? And 7 of them have been held, including young women that they beat. The Chinese Communist Party, I'm telling you, they're bad hombres. Okay?
By the way, and relative silence from the world on that right now. What's going on in Hong
silence from
Kong?
the United States of America. We've never backed the Hong Kong freedom fighters. I mean, those are the guys in 1775. Look at the miracle they did from June of last year all the way through 2019, the precursor to this whole freedom movement. The Chinese Communist Party is going to understand something. We're not going to stop. We're just beginning. You're coming down, okay? You're coming down. Do we have...
Jack Posobiec, One American News, and a very, very long-standing and deeply detailed, as far as it concerns the CCP and everything that the Chinese have been doing. Lived there for a while, in fact. I think he's joining us on the phone now. Jack, are you with us?
And by the way, for people don't understand this, I know most people know Jack of owning the libs. Jack's actually a former naval intelligence officer and speaks fluent Mandarin and understands the Chinese Communist Party and the threat of China as good as anybody I've met in this town. I mean, he's at the Pottinger, Peter Navarro level. Jack, welcome to the show.
Steve, I'm happy to be on, and I'm sitting this morning, and as I do every morning, reading my daily missives from CCTV and Chinese propaganda, and I'd like to say congratulations. You, Steve Bannon, have personally been named public enemy #1 by the Chinese Communist regime today.
Jack, I want to jump in here because before the first hour on this show, before we went live, I sat down in this seat and Steve looked at me and he said, Raheem, you got to stop wasting your time owning the libs and start focusing on this China stuff. Over the course of the first hour of the show today, you've obviously been tweeting up a storm. We've been sharing texts and articles between us back and forth. Over the course of about 3 hours, we've had Xinhua, CCTV.com, and CGTN.com. All these headlines. Bannon a bane to the pandemic global fight. Bannon leads activists in anti-China charge. And here's why Steve Bannon can't be trusted. Jack, what's going on? Because this smells like full panic from the CCP.
What it is, and what they're really doing is they're trying to wrap themselves in the flag. This is a traditional Chinese Communist Party move where they will act as if they are the mouthpiece for all of China. They will not talk about themselves as separate from the people of China. They will refer to themselves as China itself. And they actually point out that War Room Pandemic on the show makes it very clear that there is a distinction between the party and the people. What they've also done is they've accused Steve Bannon and War Room podcast of blackmail. And they're saying that they're blackmailing by spreading lies about the CCP, about the spread of this virus, the lies about the pandemic, the misleading, and calling for compensation for the world, essentially, after some sort of legal proceeding.
Jack, I want to understand why now and why with this level of urgency. We've seen obviously the crackdown in Hong Kong. We've seen tell of people blowing the whistle. We've seen this exclusive that Reuters has about the internal Chinese report. Is this panic, or is this the usual state of reaction when something like this happens from an entity like the CCP? I'm trying to get my head around just how much this is out of the ordinary for them, because it doesn't seem to me like something of this scale with this speed is commonplace.
Yeah, I've never seen China conduct a propaganda campaign this hard against any foreigner or group of foreigners before, and they do reference all sort of Trump-supporting populists or populists around the world in terms of this. They say Bannon's leading the populist activists, and I've never seen them conduct this level of an operation. This is unprecedented, the level they're doing this. They're desperately trying to swing in any direction that they can. They're reaching around in the dark, trying to find something. They're going after you guys today. They were going after the Australians last week. I'm sure by next week they'll be on to somebody else. But they're desperately trying to talk about anything other than their own failures. And I really think that the message that you blow out recently on the show, that this is China's Chernobyl, is striking home, and they know that that is the message that they are trying to stop, because this is a Chernobyl moment.
So, Jack, this is Jason. I want to go Jerry Shi from the Washington Post, which, by the way, his location, since the Washington Post had been kicked out, he said somewhere outside of China. So I'm sure he's somewhere in Asia there. But Jerry Shi tweeted out, I think it was last night, Steve Bannon has no title in the administration, but his CCP so shook CCTV dedicated a 90-second Ruping, R-U-I-P-I-N-G, to personally blast him, a distinction only Pompeo has received. I want to play just a very short clip of this, Jack, and since you're fluent in Mandarin, if you give us some kind of sense of what they're actually attacking Steve on. Here's the CCTV broadcast.
今天播发国际锐评，口出狂言的反华急先锋班农唯恐天下不乱。锐评指出，美国极右民粹分子史蒂夫·班农近日在接受媒体采访时，诋毁中国抗。
Jack, what is it that they're attacking Steve on here for? Since obviously not many of us speak Mandarin.
Yeah, right. So as put my Mandarin linguist cap on. So what they're doing is saying that Bannon, and they're trying to spread a message internally, obviously here, but you're seeing echoes of this in their external English language document. They're trying to say that Bannon is actually an enemy of America, and that his actions and activism constitute a wedge between the good relationship that America and China should be having. It's very interesting what they're trying to do. They're trying to use this as a way to drive a wedge between President Trump and Chairman Xi Jinping, and using that internal message to say that Bannon and the populists are actually derailing America from, which I guess I suppose is true in terms of America's previous agenda, which was very much cozying up to China.
Yeah, I think that what they're doing is saying that, we have to cooperate. You have to be essentially kowtow. You have to be tributary state. And now that you're anybody that rips the veneer off that is the enemy of the American people, because the American people are going to have more chaos, more decline, all of that if you listen to this. While we got you, Jack, one last thing. Reuters broke another bombshell story right before you came on that said that internally to China, they're very concerned about Xi. Now you see not just this populist revolt, but you've got, not just the populists and nationalists throughout the world. You've got other governments standing up and saying China's to blame. But the buried lead was the Ministry of State Security essentially leaked this. What's going on in Beijing at the highest levels?
Know what's going on at Beijing at the higher levels, and I had done some reporting on this a few months ago, is that Xi Jinping is starting to see a few cracks in the facade of his cult of personality. I said that the cult of personality of Xi Jinping has a risk of ruin, a risk of actually backfiring for him in this situation, because for the last 8 years, he has made himself the face of the entire party, the face of everything in the country. And now with this massive failure on his shoulders, other members of the Politburo are looking around, the princelings, the other ones that are up there, and saying, if we need a scapegoat, we can make this guy stand down in 2022. We can pin this on his shoulders and go on to another president, another chairman. We can find somebody else. And they're now starting to use that to weaken his position. It's sort of a signal flare to see if anyone else rallies around it.
But, Jack, I want to ask you this question, just again for people who might not know the internal Chinese politics of this. How realistic is that Xi Jinping, how tenuous is his standing? Could he really be on the way out? And who would even step in and most likely replace him?
Well, most likely to replace him, that's obviously a moving target, but it would likely be another princeling, another member of that generation who are the descendants, the direct descendants of the Long Marchers. It's Mao's original cadre, the people who are essentially untouchable. And while Xi directed his early purges in the party against them, Bo Xilai in Chongqing was obviously a direct example of this. Another guy that he saw as a potential rival. He threw him down. He purged him from the party. But you might see a potential Deng Xiaoping type figure arise. Now, Deng Xiaoping was a rival to Mao, but Mao was never really able to get rid of him, and he just sort of Deng had this train that he would go around the countryside on until Mao died. He was able to come back. So if Xi Jinping ends up going down over this, you might see a potential for a Gorbachev-type reformer or a Deng Xiaoping-type reformer to come in and possibly lead the party towards a process of opening up and liberalization. Now, obviously, there's a low likelihood of that just because of the war footing that the party is on right now. But because they are so desperate, that means that multiple paths are now open.
Jack, how do people get access to your writing? Because you're the head of the curve here on this reporting. How do you get what's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is watching One American News, OANN.com. On Twitter, it's Jack Posobiec, JackPosobiec, and apparently the president reads me, so you all should too.
Jack, thank you very much. Great. We're going to be back in a moment with the War Room.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this.
Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active like Copperfit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up. A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with Copperfit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
Copperfit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
Copperfit, live limitless.
At Leaf Filter, we're on a never-ending journey to end gutter cleaning forever. Whoa! Way too dangerous, Bill. Say goodbye to that ladder. Way too clogged, Melissa. Those black gutters are causing serious damage to your home. Look at these cracks in your foundation. Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system, will keep you safe and protect your home. Leaf Filter's stainless micromesh screen fits over your existing gutters and is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water. No more leaves or debris in your gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate, just like Paul. With Leaf Filter's lifetime warranty, we guarantee you'll never have to clean those nasty gutters again. Everybody okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Act now and save 15% off your purchase.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
The John Fredericks Radio Network, America's Voice.News, now Dish Channel 219, Newsmax TV, FM 99.1, FM 103.9, Nexus.org, IRS. We're all over the world, and we're subtitled every day in Mandarin, and it blows through the firewall to the VPNs. That's why Beijing, the baddest hombres in the world, fear you. They fear the fact that you hear this every day, day in and day out, relentless. They don't fear us. They fear you. What I told News Town Hall, they care about what you think, they care about what you do, and they care about how you vote. They fear the American people. They understand, like in the Revolution and the Civil War and the Great Depression of World War II, when the American people turn and get you in the gun sights, it's essentially over, right? And it's turning and putting them in the gun sights every day. These guys are criminals. It's a criminal enterprise. We're in 1938. They're no different than Mussolini. They're no different than the Nazis. They're no different than the military junta that ran Japan. They're no different. Now, they're brilliant. and they're tough, and they treat us as a tributary state. The reason you're cowering at home, the reason you have no job, no income, no net worth, no, Warren Buffett's dumping the airline stocks as a prelude. J. Crew, the preppy, think BK today, they're going to be a string of BKs. Okay? None of these companies had to go bankrupt. You didn't have to have your pension fund go down. You didn't have to be missing. The most beautiful day of the year is today in Washington, D.C. It is stunning. And guess what? There's nobody walking around Capitol Hill. You're all in your house. You know where you're in your house? The Chinese Communist Party. It's not a mayor's fault. It's not the governor of Michigan's fault. It's not Ron DeSantis' fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault or Fauci's fault or all the fingers were pointing at each other and at each other's throats. It's nobody's fault. Okay? These are all solutions. And listen, we're humans. They're not perfect. Whose fault it is? It's the Chinese Communist Party. Okay? Their first victims are the dead in Wuhan. They knew they had a problem in late December, and they hid it. And now I've heard from the voices of people who were there. The other reason they're going nuts, they understand there's people defecting every day. They're in open communication with us, Beijing. We know the truth. Okay? We know the truth. We know your lies. We know your suppression. We know it all. Okay? And by the way, there's going to be a lot of stuff about fiduciary responsibility and others. University of Texas at Galveston, right? People that funding this research, the great, the mainstream media, the great mainstream media, MSNBC and CNN in particular, your data-driven, science-based, all that. Hey, I want to hear the data-based, science-based when we start talking about these experiments, okay? We start talking about what went on in Wuhan, what was allowed to go on in Wuhan, who financed Wuhan. The Bat Lady, the Batman, the young girl we can't find, scrubbed from the thing, all of that's going to come out. Okay? Mike Pompeo is about as risk-mitigated guy as you have. I think he's a fantastic Secretary of State. He's a great man. He's not a bomb thrower. Okay? When he comes out and says, what, substantial evidence? Also, to the President of the United States, we should not, Donald Trump is the first guy ever to confront these people. Right? Bush, Obama, Clinton. Well, by the way, President Obama kind of wanted to, but Joe Biden. But I got a question to the Democrats. Why is Steve Bannon getting lit up by the Chinese Communist Party? Where is Joe Biden? Why is Joe Biden not being lit up by the Chinese Communist Party? Why are they not starting the newscast with Joe Biden? You know why they're not doing it? Because Joe Biden is totally compromised. Forget the woman. Don't get me wrong. Those things should all be worked out, and Tara Reade should have her day like every woman should have her day. I totally agree. Work that all out. That's not the reason he should be removed as your candidate. You're not going to win with Joe Biden. You don't see, they never say anything bad about Joe Biden. You know why they don't say anything about Joe Biden? He's compromised. We've got it all. We've got all the stuff on Biden. We're going to drop the ordinance on you at the appropriate time. Okay, we got it all on Biden. Why is CCTV leading off with Steve Bannon? You know one of the reasons? He's dropping the ordinance on Joe Biden. He's dropping the ordinance on Joe Biden. So that's why he's leading the American people in this wrong direction. Joe Biden is not going to be the president of the United States. You know why Joe Biden's not going to be president of the United States? We're at war. They're at war with us. We need a wartime commander-in-chief. If you don't like Donald Trump, you better have somebody who can step in those shoes, and you can't have Neville Chamberlain step into the shoes in 1938. That's when you got to start looking for the Churchills. In 1938's not the time you turn to Neville Chamberlain. Joe Biden is Neville Chamberlain. And here's why you can tell that. Besides all the history we're going to go through with Joe Biden, and look, I'm not trying to be partisan of this. I just want to take down the CCP. That's how we get to the sunlit uplands. Here's how you know. When Donald Trump makes the move on shutting down the traffic, who takes the CCP party line? Joe Biden. He's a xenophobe. He's a racist. He's a nativist. Same thing. Hello. Same thing I think they're saying about Steve Bannon today. Populism. Why does Wan Shishan so interested in nationalism, populism? These are guys that know something about popular movements. It's what overthrew the system and the reason they're in power. Of course, they suppress 1.4 billion people. Populism scares them to the marrow of their bones. You know why? Lao Beijing, Old 100 Names, and the deplorables are the exact same people, just in different locations. Okay? They're just like the American elites. And read that New Yorker article. The American elites are absolutely petrified of the Bernie people and the Trump deplorables. They're petrified because they understand the elites screwed us. It's time for payback. We need a different system here. Okay, we need a capitalism that is reoriented to labor, not to capital. Okay, not socialism, but a system that rewards labor as much as it does capital. And what the CCP is petrified of is Lao Beijing, Old 100 Names, sitting there going, hey, you know what? This system's not working for us. Wang Qishan and Xi personally, the first assets we ought to seize here in the United States is the personal assets of the heads of the Communist Party in the United States. Tens of billions of dollars of real estate assets, stocks, and bonds. You know what I'd like to do? Seize those assets first and distribute them to the dead. Right? I like all the caskets in Hart Island. I like them to be first. And I'm not trying to say, hey, they're more worthy than the one people in New Orleans and Detroit, because they're not. But it was a dramatic photo. I like to go to the Potter's grave. I like to go to Hart's Island. Every casket that's there, and what I like to say is, hey, Xi's personal family ownership in New York City and Wang Qishan's ownership in New York City, we liquidate that and we give it to the families of the dead. Let's do that. What, by the way, Wang Qishan and Xi, you guys are communists. Why do you have so much personal wealth? The people remember, of 1.4 billion Chinese, only 90 million communists. And of the 90 million communists, only really a couple thousand that matter, and it's 12 families that run the whole deal. Right? So that's what I said. Jack calls them princelings. These are the people that were around Mao Zedong, right, and Zhou Enlai in the Long March, right? The original guys that took over the Chinese communist, the original guys in the communist government. The princelings are the grandchildren of that, of which, Xi's father was one of the enforcers for Mao in the Long March. Mao's number one thing was always take care of any of the good guys around. Anybody shows leadership potential, kill him, right? Kill him. And that's Xi's dad was one of the enforcers. He's a princeling. Chinese Communist Party is going to fall. You know what's going to fall? And here's why they're scared to the marrow of their being. They understand when the deplorables around the world, in England, and in Europe, and in India, and in Brazil, and in good old United States of America, in Japan, when they wake up to the fact that, hey, this was Xi's fault. This is Xi's responsible. Okay? And they're not going to say, in present, it's not, hey, who knows if it was a mistake? Let's take our time. Let's find out. Let's do an investigation. There's a lot of folks in the CCP should understand there's a lot of folks in China that are not happy with what you did. They're not happy with the dead. And the people in Wuhan are not happy with the dead in Wuhan, right? They're not dead. They're not happy with the dead in Hubei. Their parents and grandparents have been cremated, and they don't know where they are. They can't go every year. They have a whole day where they say it's Tomb Sweeping Day. It's one of the most sacred days in China. They go back and sweep the tombs of their ancestors, and they spend the whole day in a family gathering and talking to them and praying and all that. Can't do that. No ashes. No ashes. The biggest victims of the Chinese Communist Party are the Chinese people, and that's why they're so crazy at the CCTV and all these things. They're trying to say, hey, Bannon's going after the Chinese. Wrong. And all you running dogs in the Western media, I always say the CCP. It's the CCP's the enemy, not the Chinese people and not China. It's the Chinese Communist Party. Just another group of gangsters, although quite brilliant gangsters. The infiltration, the fellow travelers, the running dogs, the appeasers, it's all going to come out. It's all going to come out over time. All going to come out over time. All going to come out over time. And they can hit back as hard as they want. We're not stopping. We haven't even started, okay? The American people, in their righteous indignation, ask Kaiser Wilhelm how that turned out for him. Ask Adolf Hitler how that turned out for him. Ask Tojo how that turned out for him. Ask Mussolini how that turned out for him. Ask Gorbachev and those guys how it turned out for them. When the American people in the West turn their righteous indignation on something, when it's in the gun sights, it's going to be over. And it's going to be over for you guys. We're going to be joined in the next segment by Jana Bianco, American Bond Foundation, and Michael Horowitz about taking down the firewall. Next, War and Pandemic.
Could someone be stealing your identity or hacking into your phone or laptop? It can actually happen from across the room or from thousands of miles away. Or a company you trust with your personal information could be breached. Your information is in more places than ever. You need more protection than ever. That's why Norton and LifeLock are now part of one company, providing an all-in-one membership for your cyber safety. Norton 360 with LifeLock gives you identity theft protection, device security, a VPN for online privacy, and more. Cyber criminals keep looking for new ways to steal your personal information. You might not even know it until it's too late.
Someone filed my taxes under my name. $6,000 was sent to some anonymous person, some anonymous bank account.
They got into my bank account and my cell phone. What else do they have?
With threats all around, you need 360-degree protection. Norton 360 with LifeLock gives you all-in-one protection against today's new threats.
I've got two industry leaders coming together to help protect my identity and my devices.
Why not have that added layer of protection so that you can sleep well at night?
Join now and use promo code MyPromo to save 25% off your first year. All Norton 360 with LifeLock memberships include LifeLock Identity Theft Protection backed by our $1 million protection package and U.S.-based restoration specialists who will work to fix problems. Award-winning Norton device security for multiple devices. A VPN for online privacy, securing your connections whether you're on public Wi-Fi or at home. And more.
You never know where cyber threats are lurking these days. Don't wait to become a victim. Here's how to join.
Norton 360 with LifeLock. Call 1-800-293-8064 or visit lifelock.com/mypromo. Use promo code MyPromo to save 25% off your first year and get a free shredder with annual membership. Call now.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx.
Next.
So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
I sent your new prescription to the pharmacy.
Any idea how much it will cost?
You have a choice. Insurance or GoodRx?
I have insurance.
Insurance is not what it used to be. People struggle to get their prescriptions covered, and prices keep rising. I recommend GoodRx. You get free coupons to save on your prescriptions. Compare prices to find the best discounts.
GoodRx. Smart.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Pandemic. Do we have some breaking news at the University of Virginia? This is a symposium they're giving today. I know Matt Pottinger, and by the way, he's a true warrior, Deputy National Security Council guy Michael Flynn, General Michael Flynn, the exonerated General Michael Flynn, brought into the National Security Council very early on, first couple of days of transition. Former Wall Street Journal reporter, former Marine Corps major, was a Wall Street Journal reporter in China, volunteered to go into the Marines to serve his country in the and ended up with General Flynn in the Middle East, but a true warrior. What's Pottinger? Pottinger's hardcore. What do you say?
So he's speaking again at the University of Virginia's Miller Center of Public Affairs. He said that the U.S. isn't looking at punitive measures here and continues what President Trump is looking at doing is continuing with the policy that he ran on, the policy that he's implemented, which is to have a reciprocal and fair relationship with China, not one in which the U.S. allows ourselves to be taken advantage of. So this is a big break from, say, for example, what we heard from Secretary Pompeo yesterday. And Steve, if you want, I'll play that clip real quick.
And Mr. Secretary, have you seen anything that gives you high confidence that it originated in that Wuhan lab?
Martha, there's enormous evidence that that's where this began. We've said from the beginning that this was a virus that originated in Wuhan, China. We took a lot of grief for that from the outset, but I think the whole world can see now. Remember, China has a history of infecting the world, and they have a history of running substandard laboratories. These are not the first times that we've had a world exposed to viruses as a result of failures in a Chinese lab. And so while the intelligence community continues to do its work, they should continue to do that and verify so that we are certain.
And then he wasn't done there. Just this brief other clip
Go
here.
ahead.
So, Martha, you've got the facts just about right. We can confirm that the Chinese Communist Party did all that it could to make sure that the world didn't learn in a timely fashion about what was taking place. There's lots of evidence of that. Some of it you can see in public, right? We've seen announcements. We've seen the fact that they kicked journalists out. We saw the fact that those who were trying to report on this, medical professionals inside of China, were silenced. They shut down reporting. All the kind of things that authoritarian regimes do.
It's a totalitarian regime, not authoritarian, but enormous evidence, and he got to knowingly responsible. So look, I realize Pottinger and the president, they got official policy, no punitive thing, but hey, I look at Tom Cotton, I look at Lindsey Graham on sanctions, Tom Cotton, Josh Hawley, strip them of their sovereign immunity, do a JUSTA, strip them of their sovereign immunity, seize their assets. Some congressman said the other day, well, we got briefed and it's too hard. I'm sorry it's too hard. It was too hard for the victims of 9/11 to go after the Saudis. And I'll get into tomorrow, by the way, this is a coordinated hit. The Saudis and the Russians in the Gulf. Also the cryptocurrency. Remember, their maniacal focus, and Larry Kudlow, the subtext of Kudlow's thing the other day, can't get their bonds, can't touch your bonds because we've got to worry about the dollar. Got to worry about the dollar. Worrying about the dollar, we got to worry about printing 6 trillion of them to prop up the asset class, but that's a discussion. I digress. However, the Chinese just launched the biggest cryptocurrency prototype in the world. Their number one maniacal focus is to get away from the dollar as the prime reserve currency. That's why they're moving in the Middle East. That's what they're moving. They want all the stuff converted. They want all the petrodollars. They want all those transactions in the Middle East converted into yuan, the RMB. We're going to get this is a coordinated hit. Remember, in every crisis is when the Chinese Communist Party strikes. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, they struck India. They always strike during a crisis, and this is a crisis that the Secretary of State tells me they're knowingly responsible. Enormous. Michael Pompeo is a guy that selects his words. He's not a bomb thrower like Steve Bannon. He's enormous evidence. Operant word there, enormous. Second operant word, evidence. Not suppositions, evidence. Enormous evidence.
Speaking of evidence, I just need to take everyone's attention for 15 seconds. Speaking of evidence.
China. I've spent a lot of time. Apparently, I was told by the folks at State I've spent more time in private meetings with Xi Jinping than any world leader. I have 25 hours of private dinners with him, just he and I, and one interpreter.
Okay, Jack Maxey. That's Jack Maxey dug that out the other day. When everybody else, this was during war room impeachment. We're doing war room impeachment, and this is the tape that later he says something about the this is something about the Ukraine.
Actually, earlier on, he said something about the Ukraine. Everyone found that, and then we decided, why not listen to the whole 2-hour tape and see if there's anything else dumb that he said.
This is what a war room is for. Jack Maxey, listen, of course, Jack Maxey's a China hand. He's the one that first brought. Jack Maxey's the first Westerner of all the intelligence agency. Hello, what are we paying $2 trillion a year for intelligence? Jack Maxey comes to me and says, hey, it's a blog in China. This on the 26th. The only reason he had free time is Raheem had done his Boxing Day, the blog in China. He goes through the Biden thing back in, I think, in October and November. He says, hey, the guy spends most of the tape talking about his relationship with Xi. Joe Biden, here's what. Look, people want the Tara Reade files, fine. You got to do the Tara Reade files. I understand that's got to be a process, and it should be appropriate, and Tara Reade should get her day of however it's going to be handled, Mika. But what has to happen here is also we got to get to the 25 hours of conversations. Mm-hmm. Because you cut the deal. Poor Obama. Obama wants to do the pivot to Asia. They come to the Rose Garden and sign a deal on cybersecurity and cyber intrusions in business and not militarizing the South China Sea. And Xi knowingly lies. Who got played? Not Barack Obama. Joe Biden. He was deputized by the President of the United States to take care of this. And the Democratic Party and all these guys, Morning Joe, answer the question, why is it Steve Bannon getting lit up and not Joe Biden? You know why? They want Joe Biden as President of the United States, and that's why he's not going to be the President of the United States. Note to Morning Joe, note to self, the 2020 campaign is going to revolve around China. Okay, Boris Epstein just laid it. It's going to revolve around China because the American people are going to sit there with this economic carnage around them, understanding that the reason that Disneyland's not open, the analysts the reason that Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, dumps the airline stocks because it ain't coming back. Not like it was. You had a economy on fire in January, and you're cowered in your home today with no job. On a beautiful day, can't even go outside. Okay, now you talk about solutions, practical solutions. Hashtag war and pandemic. Let us know what you think. Now that they're reading they're reading your tweets in Beijing right now. You got security. They have, at one time they had a 100-person department that did this. They read everything you put up on hashtag war and pandemic. They're reading. So make sure you make it good. Get in their grill. Let them know what a deplorable is. Let them know what Lao Beijing. Let them know when the people, when Old 100 Names gets a Twitter account, give them a taste of what it's going to be like. When the Old 100 Names gets a Twitter account, what it's going to be like. I want to bring in now, you talk about actions and solutions. I want to bring in now Jana Bianco from the American Bondholders Foundation. This is kind of breaking news. I don't think Robert Bartley, the Wall Street Journal, remember Jason said, it ain't a scoop until you treat it like a scoop. We got a scoop. The Chinese Communist Party owes a ton of money to the deplorables. Cash money on bonds that you hold. Jana from Tennessee, you want to tell us what the story is?
Well, thank you. And speaking of hashtags, Steve, first of all, thank you for letting me be on your show and bring this most urgent issue before the American public and the world. But speaking of hashtags, here's one for you. Hashtag China pay your bills, China pay your debts. For 20 years, for 20 years, I have fought China, the pro-China lobby, Wall Street, and corporate America to bring justice to the thousands of American people in 46 states that are holding defaulted sovereign debt that the People's Republic of China owes America. They pay Great Britain, but refuse to pay America. We cannot not make payments to China. We cannot default on our sovereign debt. We must uphold the full faith and value of our dollar. However, the president, the great negotiator that he is, could utilize these bonds that we physically hold in our possession and offset them against the Chinese treasuries that China holds of the U.S. government, and start getting back some of that over $1 trillion that our government has lost, the people of America has lost, and make a difference. If you want to take action, there's your action. It is the only viable legal option that exists at the moment.
So, Jana, tell us about what are the bonds? What are the bonds? When were they issued? What was the proceeds used for? Why did you guys get stiffed? And who owns these bonds today?
Well, who owns these bonds is over 20,000 American citizens in 46 states. These are bonds that were originally issued in 1912, 1913, most of which were due to mature in 1960, long after the People's Republic of China came into play. They were originally issued by the Republic of China, whom, as we know, was forced into Taiwan. The People's Republic took them over. They took all of their assets, their infrastructure, everything. These bonds were issued to build their economy, to build roads, to build infrastructure. And that's what the bonds were used for. They issued a tax called the SALT tax to underwrite these bonds. To this very moment, China, PRC, the CCP, is still collecting to this day. Margaret Thatcher made them pay the bonds, but no U.S. administration has forced China's hand and said, hey, you owe the American people, you need to pay your debts. I blame Henry Kissinger. During the negotiations of the 79 Foreign Claims Settlement Commission, there's now unclassified cables that are out there This was Beijing's biggest issue in trying to create normalization and trade, which gave them unfettered access to our U.S. capital markets, which they have exploited by the trillions of dollars. And they are continuing to do so, not abiding by the very same rules that the SEC and the U.S. government has put forth for American companies for disclosure, materiality of risk, etc. And then I blame Secretary Schultz as well, because America bondholders tried to use our courts, got judgment against the PRC, and in the process of trying to collect it, what is known as the 1983 China Aid Memoir, Beijing sent a scathing letter to the U.S. Department of State, who immediately went to the defense of China and Wall Street and the pro-China lobby, and had the case set aside, not because of the merits of the case, but because of foreign sovereign immunity protection for China. So heaven forbid disrupt that global chain of Wall Street making money, and corporate America selling out middle class America, putting our people out of work, out of jobs, the blue collar worker. It didn't matter. They sold out the American people. But I have faith. I believe in President Donald Trump, who has been tough on China, and I believe that he will uphold the rule of law and get justice for these American people that is long overdue.
John, we're going to have you back on tomorrow, going a little more depth, but tell people how they get access to you. How do you go to your website? What's your Twitter handle?
Jonna Z. Bianco on Skype. Twitter is ABFUSA. And our website is AmericanBondholdersFoundation.com.
Jonna, thank you very much. We'll have you back tomorrow, go a little more in depth. I know this is kind of a shock to the American people that they're actually issued bonds in good faith to help the Chinese people out in 1911 and 1912 when they had that moment of freedom, Sun Yat-sen in the Republic of China. They had a moment, and the American people were there for them. Raised a ton of money to build railroads, to build infrastructure, to help the development of the Chinese people.
And if I remember back on that, Steve, it was mostly small families, things like that. We have to remember we had a huge missionary in China at that time, so they went to Christian churches and things like that and raised the money.
Sun Yat-sen went and gave lectures at Christian churches throughout the country. It was the little guy, the deplorables, to back this up. Back in a moment, Michael Horowitz in Firewall.
Stay tuned to get a free pan from Granite Stone. Stuck on eggs, burnt on batter. You can scrub and scrape, but you can't escape the nightmare of your sticky pans. Introducing the Granite Stone Pan, the all-new durable non-stick pan. No butter or oil needed. Watch, we melted down these sticky candies in Granite Stone, and it just doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction, then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the pros. And because Granite Stone is oven rated to 500 degrees, we bake this upside down pan pizza to perfection, and it just doesn't stick. Fire Flambe Delicious Cherries Jubilee. Plus it's PFOA free and 100% dishwasher safe. Call or go online to get your Granite Stone pan for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. Granite Stone is so durable it comes with a 10-year warranty. And with every order, you're going to get a Granite Stone single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's the perfect size for personalized eggs, omelets, or frittatas that slide right out. It makes the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich quick. Yours absolutely free. We'll even ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. You get it all, an incredible value. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-850-0237. That's 1-800-850-0237, or order online at buygranitestone.com. That's 1-800-850-0237. Call now.
In the last year, there were 3 victims of cybercrime every second.
When a criminal has your personal information, they can do all sorts of things in your name. Criminals can use ransomware, spyware, or malware to gain access to information, like your name, your birthday, and even your social security number.
That's why Norton and LifeLock are now part of one company, providing an all-in-one membership for your cyber safety that gives you identity theft protection, device security, a VPN for online privacy, and more. And if you have an identity theft problem, we'll work to fix it with our $1 million protection package.
There are new cyber threats out there every day. So protecting yourself isn't a one-time job, it's an ongoing need. Now is the time to make sure that you have the right plan in place. Don't wait.
Norton 360 with LifeLock. Use promo code GET25 to save 25% off your first year and get a free shredder with annual membership. Call now to start your membership or visit lifelock.com/TV.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
The reason we play that as the open for the last, 3 months, it is a demon. We cannot let this demon hide. It is subtextual because that was projection. She's the demon, and we're not going to let you hide. In the Chinese Communist Party. From your lips, she. And here's, people want to know how to take action. We had the little lady from Tennessee, the deplorable from Tennessee, sitting on $1 trillion of Chinese bonds that the Chinese Communist Party owe. That the deplorables own 20,000 families throughout the country, and Jack Maxey said, "Hey, back when these things were issued, they went to the Christian churches. Sun Yat-sen came around and went to the Christian churches, and preached a new China. New China is all there. Okay, it's 100 years later, but it's all there. They're slaves now to the Chinese Communist Party, and you're a slave to the Chinese Communist Party. They're affecting your personal life, and that's what they're so freaked out about." That somebody's finally bifurcated the Chinese Communist Party from the Chinese people. The Chinese people here are the victims. They're the victims, just like you're a victim. But now the victims are going to bind together and throw off the devils. One way we're going to do that, we have to break and tear down the firewall. But to introduce you on the show to a new American hero, a guy's been doing this for a while, Michael Horowitz, CEO of 21st Century Initiatives. He's a big name in the whole human trafficking effort, movement. That's done such a great job. And Michael brought to me many, many, many months ago an idea and a concept about how to tear down the firewall. The firewall is what keeps the Chinese people from hearing the truth. Michael, walk through, we got about 5 minutes here, walk through what the problem is and what your unique solution is.
Well, first, the Chinese make clear themselves. Hu Jintao said, if I cannot maintain the stability, I cannot maintain the stability of the socialist state if I cannot purify the internet. They are terrified. They spend billions of dollars building the Berlin Walls of our time. And the United States has spent peanuts in a largely sabotaged effort to tear down the firewalls, even though some of the key people in the United States government, especially at that Board of Broadcasting Governors that the president recently condemned, say that it's very likely that for 3% of the Board of Broadcasting Governor's budget, we would be able, in short order, to allow the president from the Oval Office, for example, to conduct a worship service with 500,000 house church Christians in China on their cell phones. It's a new world. The whole world changes as soon as that gets done, and we have not been players in the process. Now, there are two ways.
Why is it the Berlin Wall of this generation? Explain to the American people what the firewall is and why is it the Berlin Wall?
Firewall is the means that says if you want to go on Google in China and you hit google.com, it gets blocked. So you have to go on google.cn and then you hit Tiananmen Square and you get some big discussion of how a bunch of gangsters tried and did in the state. You can't Skype as we are Skyping right now. It allows the dictatorships of the world, and it's as true of Iran as it is of China, to build this wall to isolate and control their people. Information is the key to everything. You know, we're now fighting wars, not with guns and bullets. The more efficient kind of war is with information that does in respect in the United States for our own institutions. And when people talk about Putin wanting to elect Trump, that's nonsense. Putin didn't give a damn if Trump got elected or Hillary got elected, as long as the kind of fake news he put out made Americans distrust our institutions. So the dictatorships of the world are hitting us with this fake information, and they are blocking us from communicating with the people in their own countries. And that's why the Chinese government says, they make no mistake about it, if we can't keep this Berlin Wall, this firewall, this information wall intact, we won't survive. And yet the United States has nothing to tear down the wall.
Michael, we got about 2 minutes here, and you're going to be back on tomorrow, but give us some specifics of how we tear down.
Well, the first thing is that the people at this Board of Broadcasting Governors that the president recently just put the spotlight on have said budget, it is very likely that within 6 months we could have an interactive worship service hosted in the United States in which 500,000 house church Christians participate. They haven't spent the $20 million. In fact, the very system, and it's a Falun Gong system, that can make that happen, they cut off the little bit of funding that's there for them. And now at the Board of Broadcasting Governors, the person who cut off the funds is said to be in charge of the firewall program. But let me tell you one other thing, Steve, and this gets to the key. There's a little line in the appropriations bill, the 1,000-page appropriations bill, it says not less than $60,500,000 shall be spent to promote internet freedom globally. I have found a major university that's ready to take on the business of creating the programs and supporting the programs that knock down the firewall, that allow you and me to talk to people in China, allow them to hear everything. That will stop, Steve, the idea, if we can have information coming from them, we won't have, as we did in January, 340,000 people coming from Wuhan to the United States. We can stop that and smash this regime. All we need to do is create a plan and set first-rate people on it. We've got all the funding in the appropriations bill that will allow it to happen. And I think Mike Pompeo, once he finds out and gets word from the president, can make it happen. And let me say a last thing in our last minute. We can make it happen before the election. It will be the most dramatic event of the election for the president at a worship service with 500,000 Christians, or conducting an interactive town meeting with 500,000 Iranians from the Oval Office. It changes the world. We haven't done it. It can be done. It's as simple as that.
Michael, thank you. We're going to have you back on tomorrow. That's Michael Horowitz, CEO of 21st Century Initiatives. Remember, it's information warfare. They do not want the deplorables of the world to combine together, okay? The number one thing of the regime in China is to make sure Lao Beijing, old 100 names, has no access to any information, that they feed the propaganda. Also, remember, there's 100 million practicing Christians in China. Just like everywhere else with the Christian church. When they're most persecuted, they're the strongest. I will argue that the church in China is stronger than the church in America. Okay? These are 100 million Christians. See you tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this.
Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just